This month, nothing worked out again, sighed Emily as she stepped out of the bathroom with Victor. They had been married for 5 years, tirelessly trying to start a family, but without success. Emily had been through all the necessary medical checkups, yet the doctors had no concrete answers, assuring her that she was perfectly healthy. "How can there be no reason for concern?" she protested. "Victor and I dream of having a baby, and it still hasn't happened." "Maybe the issue is with your husband," the doctor suggested. "He's been tested. Victor is healthy," she replied. Emily added, "He doesn't need any more tests because he already had a child in his previous marriage, so the issue must be with me." Nonetheless, the doctors recommended that both undergo further examinations to rule out any potential problems. As Victor was getting ready for work, adjusting his tie in front of the mirror, he noticed his wife's distressed expression. "Did it not happen this month either?" Emily silently shook her head, kissed her husband on the cheek, and went to clear the breakfast dishes. She used to work as an accountant at a local firm, but after marrying Victor, she quit her job to focus entirely on their future family. "I need a cheerful, happy wife," Victor had said back then. "Someone who welcomes me home with a homemade meal, not someone stressed out over frozen dinners." Initially, Emily missed her colleagues, with whom she often celebrated holidays and birthdays. Eventually, she adjusted to managing their home in their small, cozy condo, owned by Emily. Victor had given his previous home to his ex-wife in lieu of alimony. Now he was busy constructing their future dream house, which was almost complete, except for some interior work that was progressing slowly. "Baby, why the rush?" Victor would say. "I need to buy a new car, and a little vacation wouldn't hurt either. Let's go to Jerusalem. There's the Western Wall, where you can leave a note with your deepest wish, and it might just come true." On arriving in Israel, they took a bus to the central station, and then a tram to the city center. They had booked a room in a quaint hotel near the Western Wall. After settling in, they explored the ancient streets. The next morning, they joined a crowd approaching the Western Wall. They were informed that there were separate sections for men and women for prayers. Emily had prepared a note hoping for a child. Pressing her forehead against the cool ancient stones, she whispered, "Please, Lord, grant me a child. I promise to be a good mother and raise them to be kind." She continued murmuring her wishes, feeling a sense of relief and strength from the wall. "And what did you wish for?" she asked Victor as they walked away. "Nothing much," he shrugged, hoping to finish the house quickly and perhaps improve their finances. Emily felt disappointed, realizing that the dream of a child seemed to be her burden alone, while Victor was focused on material things. Her mood soured. She opted to return to the hotel and skip the rest of the tour. A year later, the hoped-for pregnancy still hadn't occurred. "Emily, maybe it's enough to obsess over having a child. We live well, just the two of us," Victor suggested. "How can you say that?" she retorted. "It's easy for you. You already have a son. I don't understand why you only see him once a year on his birthday, just to give him a gift." "Understand," Victor was embarrassed. "I didn't really want that child. I had to marry Laura because she was already pregnant. Thankfully, the child was healthy, although born prematurely at 7 months. My ex-wife used to say that strong men run in her family, and if he had been full-term, he would have been enormous. I hope everything is normal with your family," he laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "I've always dreamed of a delicate little girl with blue eyes." As time passed, Emily's hope for a miracle dwindled. Moreover, Victor began staying late at work, claiming that a big project needed to be completed on time. For this, he would earn a significant bonus, which would finally allow them to finish their country home. "Soon we'll move into our house and we can sell this condo and buy you a car for city trips," Victor suggested. But Emily was reluctant to sell the condo she had inherited and had lovingly decorated. "I can manage without a car. I don't even have a driver's license yet," she told him. "You have plenty of free time to go to driving school," he encouraged, searching online for nearby options. Initially, Emily knew nothing about road signs or traffic laws, but she gradually got the hang of it and started to enjoy the classes. When it was time for her to drive with an instructor, she approached her first lesson with nervous excitement. "Hello, are you Emily Johnson?" A tall man in jeans and a black t-shirt greeted her. "Hello, yes, that's me," she replied, extending her hand. "I'm Mark, your driving instructor. Shall we get started?" Emily sat in the driver's seat, buckled her seatbelt, and paused, unsure of where to begin. "Well, where shall we start?" Mark asked calmly. I hope you remember what the pedals are for. I think I remember, Emily responded, turning the key in the ignition. She released the clutch, gently pressed the gas, and the car jerked but didn't move. See, Mark smiled. That's typical for all beginners. Did you forget anything? Emily thought for a moment. Start the car. Release the clutch slowly while pressing the gas. No, she shook her head. I don't think I forgot anything. Really? Mark seemed surprised. Did you release the handbrake? Oh, right! Emily slapped her forehead. Her first time driving was a blur. She felt unsure behind the wheel and drove cautiously, sticking close to the side of the road. That's enough for the first time, Mark said as they parked near the driving school. I'll see you here tomorrow at the same time. Emily was eager to tell her husband that she had driven by herself today. She dialed his number but only heard a series of beeps. Later, Victor called her back. Sorry, I didn't hear the phone. Is everything okay? Are you heading home soon? Emily wanted to share her day. What should I make for dinner? No need. I'm swamped here and will be late again. We're having a meeting to discuss a project. We'll order pizza to the office. Don't wait up for me, just go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow. Emily felt disappointed. Once again, she would spend the evening alone. How long had it been since they had spent a night out together? She looked out the window at the playground where children played and their mothers watched from a nearby bench. Emily longed to join them. Then she wouldn't feel so alone. As it grew dark, she made a salad but found she wasn't hungry. The TV played another series about passionate love and dramatic reunions, all ending predictably with happy resolutions and eternal vows. Victor returned home late, and Emily was already asleep. He quietly undressed and slid into bed, trying not to wake her, but she stirred anyway. She turned toward him, seeking comfort. Go back to sleep, he whispered, pulling the blanket over her. In the morning, Emily told Victor about her day with Mark, but he seemed distracted, clearly preoccupied. Is everything okay? She asked. Just some minor issues at work. Maybe we should do something fun today, like catch a movie or have dinner out. I wish I could, but I'm really buried in work and will be late again tonight. Don't worry about me, he said, pecking her on the cheek, grabbing his keys and leaving. Emily watched from the window as Victor got into his car, talking on the phone. She then cleared the table, did the dishes, and prepared for her next driving lesson, feeling more confident than the day before. Try to pass that truck, Mark pointed to a garbage truck ahead. I'm nervous, Emily admitted. Maybe it'll turn off soon and we can just follow. Mark laughed, then explained how to safely overtake vehicles. Thanks to his clear instructions, Emily managed to pass the truck and felt a surge of accomplishment. See, it's not that scary, Mark said, pleased with her progress. By now, Emily hesitated to call Victor about her new achievement. He must be really stressed, she thought. He used to care about my day, but now we barely talk. Well, Mark said one day, you're doing great driving around the city. Now let's try the highway where the traffic is heavier. Emily felt liberated on the open road, even accelerating a bit. Who doesn't enjoy a bit of speed? Mark joked, watching the speedometer. Move to the right. We're turning onto a country road soon. Emily read the sign. Oh, that's near our new house. Can we drive by? I haven't seen it in so long. Of course, Mark agreed, and they pulled over near the house. At the gate, Emily noticed Victor's car. Victor must be checking on the progress, she thought, peering through the gate. I'd like to look too, she said to Mark. Okay, but let's make it quick. We need to get back soon. Emily stepped onto the porch and opened the door. Inside, the house was clean with some furniture and curtains already in place. Strange, she mused. Victor didn't mention the work was finished. Maybe he wanted to surprise me. But where is he? Climbing the stairs, she suddenly heard voices. One was Victor's, the other a woman's. Victor, how much longer will this go on? The woman demanded. When will you tell your wife it's over between us? Just a little longer, Victor pleaded. I won't even talk to her. I'll just leave a note and come to you. Smart move transferring this house to me, the woman laughed. So your wife gets nothing. You're clever, working as a lawyer and advising me well. Plus, we've also taken care of our baby on the way. I dream of our daughter looking just like you. Another kiss followed. Darling, I've missed you. Emily was stunned, unable to believe what she was hearing. Her husband was here with another woman, and they were expecting a child. Overwhelmed, she fled down the stairs. "What's wrong?" Mark asked, seeing her distress. "Please, let's just go," Emily pleaded near tears. Mark nodded, guided her to the passenger seat, and took the wheel. "I'll drive," Mark said firmly. "We'll find a quiet place, and then you can tell me what happened." The car drove into a forest clearing and stopped. Mark opened the door and invited Emily to step out. "Let's take a walk," he offered, extending his hand. "I come here to clear my head when I'm feeling down. There's something about being among the trees that just helps." "Nothing will help me now," Emily replied, despair in her voice. "I don't even know how I'll move forward." "There are no hopeless situations," Mark said philosophically. "Only ones where you don't like the available options. I just found out my husband has another woman, and she's expecting his child while I—" Emily broke down crying. Initially taken aback, Mark then embraced her, feeling her tremble with sobs. He felt a deep sympathy for her, having once been left by his wife for a more successful man. She later wanted to return, claiming her new partner was too harsh. But Mark refused, saying a broken cup, even if glued back together, will never be the same. He had longed for children, but his wife had refused, not wanting to risk her figure as she worked at a beauty salon. "Don't worry, everything will sort itself out. Why stay with a husband who's ready to betray you? And there are other ways to have a family, like adoption," Emily said bitterly, but her husband had opposed it, fearing the child might inherit undesirable traits. "Well, it seems habits aren't inherited," Mark replied uncertainly. "A lot depends on how you raise a child." Emily turned away, lost in thought. "What should I do now? I can't bear the thought of going home to a husband who pretends nothing has happened, lying about meetings and work." "Where should I take you?" Mark asked. "To your parents' place?" "No," Emily shook her head. "I can't go to my mom's. I don't want to upset her, and she'll just say, 'I told you so.' She never liked Victor from the start, told me he would leave me someday. I argued with her then, thinking she was just against my happiness, and I didn't even invite her to our wedding. We just signed the papers at the courthouse and had a small gathering with friends at a diner afterward. Honestly, I had dreamed of a different wedding, one that would be memorable. I even tried on a dress at a bridal shop, but Victor said he didn't want another big wedding since he'd already had one. He didn't want to go through all that again. I agreed to a simple ceremony," Emily sighed, realizing her mother was right. Victor was just a facade, secretly meeting another woman. "Let's go to my buddy's lake house," Mark suddenly suggested, sure she would enjoy the distraction. Emily looked at him, surprised, then shrugged and agreed. "Let's go." Mark got back behind the wheel. "But first, we need to stop by the store. I have to pick up some gifts for my nephews," he smiled. "Their names are Sammy and Joey. They're quite the handful, but I love them dearly." Mark's voice warmed as he talked about the boys. After buying a bag full of snacks, a bottle of wine, and some fruit, they drove to a lakeside community not far from the city. "Uncle Mark is here." Two boys in matching t-shirts ran up to the car. "Hey, champs." Mark lifted them into his arms. "I've missed you guys." Emily stepped out and smiled at the playful scene. The boys were identical twins. I wonder how their parents tell them apart, she thought. "And who's this?" the boys cheekily asked, eyeing the unfamiliar woman. "Your girlfriend? Get out of here, you scamps." A tall, lean man approached and extended his hand to Mark. "Hey, brother, it's been too long since your last visit." Then he turned to Emily and offered his hand. "I'm Alex," he introduced himself. "And what's your name?" Emily introduced herself shyly. "Well, why are we standing around?" Alex realized. "Mark, move the car into the driveway. You're blocking it, and the neighbors will complain. Come on," he said to Emily. "I'll introduce you to my wife." A friendly-looking woman approached, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "I heard Alex talking, and here we have guests," she said cheerfully. "Come in, make yourselves at home. We love having visitors. I'm Katie, by the way, and these are our boys." She pointed to the twins, who were already digging into the bag of treats from Mark. "Sammy and Joey, can you tell who's who?" Emily was still amazed. "They look exactly alike." "It just seems that way," Katie laughed. "Look closer and you'll see they're quite different, especially in their personalities. Sammy is the organized one, while Joey tends to leave his toys everywhere. They bicker, but make up quickly." "You're lucky," Emily sighed. "Such wonderful sons. I'd love to have kids like that." "Let's drop the formalities," Katie suggested. We're simple folks here. Call me Katie." "Okay," Emily agreed with a smile. "Then let's get the table set," Katie said, straightening her apron. "I knew we'd have guests today. I made pies and a berry crumble." Around the table, the conversation flowed easily. Katie and Alex shared stories about their son's antics, and Mark talked about funny moments from the driving school. Emily felt welcomed and comfortable, yet she couldn't help but envy Katie and Alex's happiness. It was obvious they truly cared for each other. "You can tell by the way she looks at him. She adores him. They really do have a strong family," Emily whispered to Mark after Katie and Alex had stepped away to tuck their sons into bed. "Indeed, a great family," Mark agreed. "But they've had their share of challenges. Alex and I grew up in foster care. My mother left me at the hospital, and his parents lost their rights due to neglect and bad behavior. We met at 13 and instantly became as close as brothers, always having each other's back. And Katie, she's from foster care too?" Emily asked tentatively. "No," Mark shook his head. "She comes from a well-to-do family. Her dad's an engineer and her mom's a doctor EUR. A real intellectual bunch." "And how did she meet Alex?" Emily inquired. "We foster kids went to a public school. Katie joined us in 8th grade. One day, an older student started bothering her, and when he tried to pull her away, Alex stepped in so fiercely that they ended up falling for each other. But that didn't change our friendship. I just gave them some space. After high school, Alex and I went to a technical college and Katie to med school. But soon after, Alex and I were drafted into the military. Katie promised to wait for Alex. Her parents initially didn't like that he was from foster care and tried to end it, but Katie stood her ground, saying she'd leave home if they forced her. They had to accept her choice to keep her. Mark paused as he noticed the hosts quietly stepping back onto the porch. "We finally got them to sleep," Alex sighed. "Promised them a fishing trip tomorrow, so it's an early start." "You're really taking them fishing?" Emily was surprised. "They're still so young." "I promised them, and you've got to keep promises or they won't trust you," Alex replied confidently. "They've been with me before," Katie added. "They listen to Alex. If he says stay away from the water, they won't budge. You guys are like a little army," Emily laughed. "You have to be," Alex said, spreading his hands. "We want to be proud of them." "Well," he stood up, "Mark and I are heading to bed." He's been yawning on the sly. The men retired indoors, and the women began clearing the table. "What's the deal with you and Mark?" Katie asked as she collected the dishes. "Nothing," Emily shrugged. "He's my driving instructor. And I'm married," she hesitated. "Was married, until today." "What do you mean, until today?" Katie was puzzled. Emily sat down and recounted the events at the lake house and her ongoing struggle to have children despite being healthy. "Yeah," Katie nodded, sitting beside her. "Alex and I had trouble too. A priest once told us not to lose hope. AITA child knows when and where to come. Everything has its time. Just wait, and it'll happen." And it did. When we found out about the twins, we felt doubly blessed. So don't lose hope. And regarding your husband, Katie hesitated slightly, maybe it's for the best. You didn't have kids together. "You're probably right," Emily agreed. "Thank you. You and Alex have been through so much. And now you have a wonderful family and 2 beautiful kids." Katie laughed. 3, actually. "You are, almost," she corrected. "You're expecting," Emily exclaimed. "That's amazing. Congratulations. And it looks like it'll be a girl." Katie beamed. The next morning, Alex went fishing with the boys, and Emily and Mark headed back to town. "Come visit us again." Katie hugged her goodbye. "We'll be waiting, and remember, after every storm, there's clear skies. Just be patient. Can I drive?" Emily asked as they left. "Are you sure?" Mark said, pulling over. "We did have a lesson scheduled for today, so why not start now?" Emily got behind the wheel, fastened her seatbelt, and they drove off. The roads were fairly quiet, and Emily confidently navigated through the traffic. "You're doing great," Mark encouraged her. "I realize there's nothing in life to fear." Emily focused on the road, her conversation with Katie clear in her mind about how to move forward. Returning home, Emily headed straight for the kitchen to make coffee. "Where were you all night?" she heard Victor demand angrily from behind her. "And who was that man who dropped you off? What's going on?" Emily gave a weak smile. "I'm asking where you were," Victor pressed. "While I'm out working all night, you're out having fun?" "Oh, poor you," Emily retorted sarcastically. "Seems like you've really been working hard at night. You know what? Victor shouted. I won't stand for this. I'm packing up and leaving this apartment and you'll beg me to come back. Bravo! Emily clapped sarcastically. Found the perfect exit to leave for your pregnant girlfriend, huh? What are you talking about? Victor was stunned. Where did you get that idea? Stop acting, Emily scowled. Go ahead, pack up and move into your already settled new home. Hired a detective, did you? Victor scoffed. Emily handed him her wedding ring. You're free. Go to your girlfriend, and I hope your child is healthy. Victor was silent. He grabbed his suitcase, threw in his belongings, tossed the apartment keys on the table, and slammed the door as he left. Well, look at that, Emily said with a hint of sarcasm. Now I'm somehow the guilty one, and this was the man I loved and wanted to start a family with. She laughed nervously, then grew somber. Well, I have a place to stay, but as for work. She sighed deeply. It's a shame I didn't save any money while I was with Victor. And where would it have come from? It all went into the house, Emily muttered to herself. She went to her bedroom and pulled a notebook from her dresser, finding the phone number of Linda Kramer from HR, and dialed it. Oh, Emily, hello, Linda exclaimed, clearly happy to hear from her. We haven't caught up in so long. Listen, I'm calling because… Emily hesitated slightly. Do you have any job openings? I'm tired of just being at home, her former colleague chuckled. We do, actually. Lisa Martin is going on maternity leave soon, you remember her? She joined after you left. So I'll talk to Nina, our head accountant, and then I'll call you back. The next day, Emily approached the building where she used to work with trepidation and entered the accounting office. Oh, Emily! Her former colleagues were delighted, bustling around. Missed us and decided to visit? Quiet, everyone! Nina called out from her office. Come in, Emily, she said, stepping aside to let her into her office. They emerged shortly after, and Nina addressed a young woman sitting near the window. Lisa, this is Emily Johnson. She'll be taking over your tasks from Monday so you can start your leave without worries. Once Nina closed the door, everyone gathered around Emily. It's so great you've decided to come back, her colleagues exclaimed joyfully. Emily realized how much she had missed them. After lunch, she was already behind the wheel of a training car, confidently driving on the road, adhering to all traffic rules. Well, Emily, Mark said a few days later, our lessons are nearly done. You should be proud of your progress. And when you get your license, you'll be set to drive your own car. Alas, Emily gestured, I don't have a car and probably won't be able to afford one anytime soon. Have you decided about the divorce? The instructor asked cautiously. I hope you've thought it all through. A broken cup can never be whole again. I don't want to be with someone who could betray me at any moment, Emily replied confidently. By the way, you can congratulate me. I'm starting work on Monday, so things are looking up. Mark looked at her with respect, offering his business card. If you need my help, just call. Could I get your number? Maybe I'll call you sometime. Thank you, Mark, for being there when I really needed it. And say hi to your friends Katie and Alex. They're a wonderful couple. Returning home, Emily felt an emptiness, as if something vital was missing. She wandered around her apartment, unsure of what to do next. Victor hadn't called, and she wasn't waiting for one. It was as if he no longer existed for her. Though it hurt how he had treated her, she decided to visit her mother to tell her everything. To her surprise, her mother didn't say, I told you so, but simply embraced her tightly. Don't worry, dear, her mother whispered gently. Everything will work out. Just keep your spirits up. They spent some time chatting over tea in the kitchen. Emily told her mother about her new friend Mark and his resilient friends who had overcome their own hardships. Leaving her mother's house, she felt reassured of her own strength and even decided to adopt a kitten to have some company at home in the evenings. The work week flew by as Emily enjoyed reconnecting with colleagues and diving into new projects. Now her evenings weren't so lonely. She even took up knitting again, a hobby she hadn't touched in a while. Emily planned to spend the weekend at home doing chores, but as she returned from work, her phone rang in her bag. An unknown number flashed on the screen. Hello? She answered cautiously. Hello, Emily. This is Mark, a familiar voice came through. I hope I'm not bothering you. No, not at all, she replied quickly, pleased to hear from him. I wanted to invite you to Katie's birthday tomorrow at the lake house. Just a few close friends will be there. I think you'll enjoy it. I'd love to join you, Emily responded enthusiastically. But I need to bring a gift, she pondered. I think I have just the thing. Great. I'll pick you up around noon tomorrow and we'll head out. Emily carefully took down a decorative figure she had brought from a trip, dusted it off, and packed it as a gift. In the morning, she picked up some snacks for Katie's kids at the store. When the doorbell rang, Emily was ready to leave, but when she opened the door, she was surprised to see Victor standing there. "What do you want?" she asked, perplexed. "Just wanted to see how you're doing without me," he said, stepping inside uninvited and looking around. "I see you're not missing me. Where are you off to?" "I don't owe you explanations." Emily glanced at the clock. "Sorry, I'm in a hurry." "Moved on so quickly," Victor said as he walked through her apartment looking for any sign of another man. "I thought you said you loved me," Emily frowned. "What do you really want? Got tired of your new wife already?" "Well, forget her," Victor said dismissively, his irritation clear. "She's all demands. Honey, buy this, honey, buy that," he mimicked. "She doesn't want to lift a finger at home, wants me to hire a maid." "What did you expect?" Emily shrugged. "Pregnant women need extra care." "I bet you wouldn't have been like that," Victor smirked. "You always got me and never asked for much." "Look, I'm telling you again, I'm in a hurry. Why are you trying to keep me from leaving?" Victor grabbed Emily's arm roughly and pulled her toward the bedroom. "Come on, fulfill your marital duties." "Let me go!" Emily screamed. "We're done!" But Victor stubbornly dragged her toward the bed. Suddenly, he let go of her arm and clutched his head. Emily saw Mark, who had raised his hand to hit Victor again. "Don't!" Emily pleaded. "Don't get yourself in trouble over this jerk!" She then turned to her estranged husband and said coldly, looking him straight in the eye, "Get out and don't ever come back here again." Victor staggered back toward the hallway, muttering, "You'll regret this." "I hope he didn't hurt you. You arrived just in time," Emily said, shaking her head. "That was my ex-husband, who thought I was pining for him and decided to comfort me. I was waiting for you in the yard. Then I called your phone but got no answer. I thought something happened and decided to come up," Mark explained. "And how did you know which apartment was mine?" Emily was surprised. "I don't think I told you." "You pointed to your windows when we drove by your place," Mark smiled. "So it wasn't hard to guess." "Well, shall we go? We still need to pick up some flowers for the birthday girl." Katie was delighted when she saw that Emily had come with Mark. Emily handed her the gift box, saying that this Madonna with child, brought from Jerusalem, would now protect their family. Sasha and PJ immediately began to divide the treats that Emily had brought them. Besides Emily, Mark, and the hosts, Katie's parents and another couple, Lana and Ethan, were also at the lake house. The women set the table while the men grilled steaks and discussed the latest sports news. "Katie, how have you been?" Emily asked during a quiet moment. "All good," Emily replied, setting the plates. "I've settled into my job, kicked my husband out of the apartment, and am thinking about adopting a kitten. So, life is getting back on track." "Good for you," Katie was supportive. "The main thing is to stay positive, and everything will definitely be fine." Emily looked at Katie quizzically. "He only called me yesterday and invited me to come to your lake house." "Well, do you at least like him?" Katie asked. "Honestly, yes," Emily lowered her eyes. "He's so." "Understood," Katie smiled. "Just admit you're falling for him." Emily almost dropped the plate she was holding. "Well, you're right. I really missed our driving lessons and didn't want them to end. I probably didn't want to admit to myself that I'd really fallen for him because I didn't take the breakup with my husband as seriously as I should have." "Wouldn't it be wonderful?" Katie exclaimed. "I'll tell you a secret. Mark likes you a lot too, but he's hesitant to start something new after his ex betrayed him. I think you two would make a great couple. I know it's been quick, but I believe you're incapable of any deceit." At the festive table, it was lively and joyful. Everyone tried to congratulate Katie and wish her the best. Emily sat next to Mark, who attentively served her salad, steak, and poured red wine. Emily felt very comfortable in this friendly circle, especially being near someone for whom she had developed deep feelings. After a bit of wine, Emily felt a mild headache and stepped away from the table to sit under an apple tree. "Did you get bored with us?" Mark joined her, looking concerned. "No, not at all," she shook her head. "I'm really enjoying it here. By the way, Katie's parents are wonderful, and they adore their son-in-law, just like you said." "Yes, Alex now has a wonderful family, a wife, her parents who he calls mom and dad, and 2 great sons. I'm very happy for him." "And me," sighed Mark. Other than my beloved job, I come home to emptiness. No one waits for me. No one greets me. I feel the same. Emily plucked a blade of grass. Honestly, I'm thinking about getting a kitten so I'm not so lonely. Emily, I won't hide it. I really like you. Mark stood up from the bench and faced her. Maybe we can save each other from loneliness if you're open to it. Emily also stood up and looked into Mark's eyes. No, I'm not against it. Emily, Mark, come join us, voices called from the porch. We're about to have tea with cake. But Emily and Mark heard no one. They stood under the apple tree kissing. Katie, how did you manage carrying 3 kids? Emily asked, touching her now noticeable belly. Our future son is so active. He might be a soccer star with all his kicking. Katie, holding her little daughter, smiled. See, dreams do come true. You'll be a great mom soon, and who knows, maybe there's another one on the way. Have you thought of names? Mark, Emily said fondly, after his dad and my beloved husband. So it'll be Mark Jr. It's odd, Katie remarked. With your first husband, you couldn't conceive. But with Mark, you got pregnant right away. Turns out it wasn't me, Emily explained. I recently learned from his mother that Victor had childhood mumps and became infertile. He had a son in his first marriage, and his third wife also had a child, supposedly his. Really? Katie was shocked. Turns out those weren't his children. Both ex-wives had affairs and tricked him into believing he was the father. The house he built was immediately put in his mistress's name, who became his third wife. When Victor found out the child wasn't his, he divorced and lost everything since the house wasn't subject to division. Now he's back living with his mother and paying child support for 2 kids that aren't biologically his. Oh, what a twist, Katie shook her head. Well, he got what he deserved. As they say, karma always comes back around. The main thing is that you and Mark are happy and expecting the child you both dreamed of. Mom, Dad, and Uncle Mark are here. Sasha and PJ ran to the bench. They brought us bikes as promised, and they said they would teach us how to ride them. Emily stood up, still holding her belly, and walked to the gate. She looked lovingly at her husband, who had made her the happiest woman in the world.